Let's start with some lighting fundamentals. What you see is not what you get. It's hard to detect backlighted videos like these while you're shooting because your eyes can see the shadow detail just fine. It's your camcorder that has the problem. Ditto for stage images like these dark snowflakes. Much of this relates to contrast ratio, which is the range of brightness and darkness that a system can reproduce. Your eyes have a contrast ratio of about 1,000 to 1, while film cameras and their digital equivalents have a contrast ratio of about 500 to 1. By comparison, most prosumer camcorders have a contrast ratio of around 128 to 1. When the contrast ratio in your scene exceeds the contrast ratio of your device, you lose detail, like shadows in this face. The key message is this: don't use film lighting techniques for streaming unless you're shooting with a film camera and converting to digital. If you're using a prosumer camcorder, you're probably going to lose some detail. Color temperatures and why you care. All lights have different color temperatures, as does the sun. This affects the colors in the scene, with tungsten lights turning the scene brownish red and fluorescence turning the scene blue. You can make the whites look white by white balancing, which you should do every scene. But you can't fix images that contain lights with different color temperatures, like this one with both late afternoon daylight, which is blue, and tungsten, which is brownish. White balance for the daylight and the cream shirt looks brown. White balance for the tungsten and the shirt looks right, but the daylight looks blue. What's the key point? When lighting a scene, don't mix lights with different color temperatures. If the overheads are fluorescent and your lights are tungsten, shut the overhead lights. And if you're shooting near a window with daylight streaming in, shut the curtains unless the color temperatures of your lights match the daylight. There are two types of light sources, hard and soft. Hard lights create a very distinct, well-defined shadow, like that on my left face and neck in this video. In contrast, soft lights are more diffused and light the scene with minimal or no shadows, reducing the contrast range. Hard lights are generally tungsten, halogen, or other incandescent lights, which makes them small and portable and inexpensive, but they generate lots of heat. You can either buy soft lights, which are generally expensive fluorescent systems that run much cooler than hard lights, or you can convert hard lights to soft lights with softboxes, umbrellas, gels, diffusion filters, or reflectors. Soft lights have several key advantages over hard lights when it comes to streaming. They create lower contrast between bright and dark regions, produce less detail, and are easier to deploy because they're more diffuse, making precise placement less important. Whether you're creating a shadowed or flat look, which I'll cover next section, you're probably going to want to work with soft lights. There are two basic lighting styles used in streaming. I'll quickly identify them so we can talk a common language. Low-key lighting, also called three-point lighting, uses shadows to model the face, which provides depth in a 2D environment. It also creates a certain dramatic mood, like Sam Spade in his fedora, with his face half lit and half in darkness. Just to confuse things, low-key lighting creates high contrasts, meaning very bright and dark regions that may strain the contrast ratio of many camcorders, producing loss of detail. Low-key lighting is also high-maintenance lighting, because if the subject moves a foot or two in either direction, you have to move the lights as well. Low-key lighting is also complicated with multiple subjects in the frame. High-key lighting is also called flat lighting, and it attempts to minimize the contrast ratio in a scene, which makes it camcorder and compression friendly. It's simpler to set up for both single and multiple subjects since minor turns in motion have less effect on lighting placement. To avoid confusion, I'll call low-key lighting three-point lighting, its most familiar name. Similarly, I'll call high-key lighting flat lighting throughout the rest of this tutorial. Now that we know the styles and have agreed on the names, the next video will further analyze when to use each lighting style.